Start recording. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is the second meetup for AWS Security User Group Middle East. I have Revant with me, who is the co-host of this meetup. So me and Revant started this meetup to gather all the security folks and have security discussions. Revant, you want to say something, add something?
Hello everyone. I think there's nothing specific, but I'm just curious how many of you are here for the first time, or how many of you already attended it last time? Maybe you can just say it out in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if that's possible.
Hey, hi, sorry guys, I'm
Hi.
Avinash. Yes, hi. This is my first meetup here. I'm looking forward to connect with you guys and see how we can collaborate and learn together.
Sounds nice. I think since we have limited number of people, maybe you can just give a 1 or 2 liner intro, just so we can understand what you are doing and what your expectations are from the meetup in general, so we can curate it accordingly.
Sure. Let me go first in, I guess. So I am Avinash. I'm a security consultant at the moment, working here in Dubai, and my focus is to just understand the AWS security landscape, how people are coming up with solutions, and try and see if I can learn from them and develop my career as well. That's something that I want to do. Thanks.
Awesome. Anyone who would like to go next?
Yeah, my name is Ani, and I'm also a cloud engineer based in this. I saw the topic and I was kind of like interested, especially then on I actually analyze it. So I look forward to learning.
Sure, thanks, Annie. John, would you like to say something?
Oh, hey, sorry.
Hey.
Didn't realize that I was on mute.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyone else who would like to share like what they're doing or what they're expecting? Or maybe we'll resume this after a while. Hamid, over to you.
Okay. So as I mentioned, this is the second meetup. So in the first meetup, we had quite a number of people, almost 25, 26 people. So one of the requests that we got in the first meetup is they want to do the hands-on IAM Access Analyzer. So we designed this or organized this one to talk about IAM Access Analyzer. So today we will see what is IAM Access Analyzer, what are the features it provides, and then we will jump into a live IAM Access Analyzer session. So we have few accounts. We will see how the configuration of IAM Access Analyzer looks like and how we can utilize it, what are different options available. So let me share my screen so we can just do a little bit, theory thing to understand what is actually IAM Access Analyzer and how it works, what are the different features available. Then we will jump into. So are you guys able to see my screen? I guess yes.
Yeah, now.
Okay, perfect. So IAM Access Analyzer. Actually, this is a service which AWS has introduced some time ago. A lot of people still don't know about IAM Access Analyzer, although it's a very simple service but very effective. So what actually is IAM Access Analyzer? IAM Access Analyzer provides different features, and those features and everything works on the permissions, AWS IAM permissions, either resource-based permissions, user-based permissions, role-based permissions, any kind of permissions. IAM Access Analyzer works with those permissions. It helps you reduce the permissions. It helps you identify unused credentials. It helps you identify external access as well. So as we see here, at the first, I have mentioned external access. So external access is an analyzer in IAM Access Analyzer. Basically, what this analyzer does, this actually scans all of your resources, not just IAM users, not just IAM roles, not just S3 buckets, but any other resources where a resource-based policy can be applied. And it scans those resources and makes sure that those resources are not allowing access to any external third party. So what is the definition of external third party? External access means any entity or principal that does not exist in the current account where the resource exists. So for example, let's suppose you have an S3 bucket, which you have created in account A, and you have given access to a user who exists in account B. So that is an external access, cross-account access. Similarly, you have a similarly you have, hello?
वही देखने जा रहा है कितने लोगों ने join किया।
Similarly, you have, for example, S3 bucket in account B, and you have given the access to the user in account A. That will be external access for that bucket, right? So in this case, if you are running the external access check on account A, it will not tell you that this IAM user in account A has access to account B, because it's not scanning the users for what access they have. External access is only scanning the resources for the external access, not what access they have. If you want to analyze what access they have, or if they have extra access, it should be you should be applying or reducing their permissions. That is a separate feature of IAM Access Analyzer. But in the external access analyzer, you do not look for the permissions of your users and role in the existing account, but instead you scan them and verify and make sure that no external access is there. If the external access is there, the external access analyzer will list down all those external accesses for you to review. And once you have done the review, you can mark them either intended access, that you meant to provide that access, or you can mitigate that risk or mitigate that finding by removing that access. Second analyzer we have in IAM Access is unused credentials. So this unused credential also is a very simple one, but very effective. It scans all your IAM users, IAM roles, and all these principals that can have access to other resources, and it verifies if those credentials were used. For example, if IAM user have security access keys or passwords or any kind of other mechanism, was it used in a recent time or not? If it was not used, it will highlight that it is an unused credential. So maybe you can just remove it because it is not being used. If you're not removing unused credentials, it is just sitting there, and there is a chance that it can get compromised at some time. So if you're not using the credentials, it is best that you remove those credentials. So these are the two analyzers. Now IAM Access have other features as well, which we have been using on a day-to-day basis without realizing that we are using IAM Access Analyzer or IAM Access service. So one of them is, for example, policy validation. Policy validation is when you are in the AWS console and you are creating an IAM policy. It gives you some errors when there are syntax errors, or if there are any security issues, and we will show you in the demo as well. When there are any security issues, it highlights those security issues as well in your IAM policy when you are writing or creating that IAM policy. That is all happening through the IAM access service on the backend. In the console, you see the errors, but in the backend, AWS is also using the IAM access service to validate your IAM policy that you are writing and providing you the runtime feedback in your console so you can fix your access. Policy generation. Policy generation is another feature of IAM Access Analyzer. What it does is, I talked about least privileges. So what it does is, for example, you have to analyze one of your roles where you have added a lot of custom permissions, but you're not sure if those are right permissions or not. Maybe you have added excessive permissions and you want to reduce those permissions, right? So manually verifying those are very difficult. You can go to the Access Advisor tab and look at the recent access services, but still you cannot identify what actual permissions are being used or not. So this is where the policy generation comes in. Policy generation actually scans your CloudTrail events and looks for that particular role or user and for the permissions that they have used in last X number of days. So you can specify the number of days as well when you are scanning the CloudTrail events to generate your policy. So it scans your CloudTrail events for last X number of days, whatever number of days you specify. And based on that, it will automatically generate a policy that these are the permissions that have been used in last X number of days. And then you can just apply that permission instead having the permission with having the policy with a lot of permissions that are not being used anymore. So this is how the policy generation works. Then we have custom policy checks. Custom policy checks is also like policy validation. So let's suppose you are writing a custom policy, maybe in your Terraform or maybe in your some other script or in your application, you are writing an IAM policy and you want to validate that policy in your, let's say, CI/CD pipeline. So this is where the IAM Access Analyzer command line or API comes in, where you can integrate it with your command line, especially if you are using CloudFormation, for example, and you are writing the IAM access policies in CloudFormation. AWS has already provided a tool which you can use. It's a Python-based tool which you can use in your CI/CD pipelines to verify your CloudFormation templates and validate your policies in your CloudFormation templates using that particular tool. But if you want to do it for your custom policies, like you can just have a policy written in a JSON format and you can run the AWS CLI, or you can call the AWS API directly to validate your IAM policy. So these are few of the features of IAM Access Analyzer. Now, let's see, like we have already talked about the benefits. Now let's see what are the actual benefits and why we actually need the IAM Access Analyzer. It is all well and good. Let's suppose I have an AWS account where I only have one user and one role. Do I really need IAM Access Analyzer to scan that user or role? Maybe not. Maybe it's not that useful for that one IAM user or IAM role. But nowadays, in any organization who is using AWS professionally or who are using seriously AWS, they have multiple different accounts. They have a multi-account architecture. So they have IAM roles in account A, B, C, D, E, depending on the number of accounts they have. I have seen organizations with up to thousands of AWS accounts. 50 AWS accounts are very common. I have seen multiple organizations already with 50 plus AWS accounts. So having these number of AWS accounts and having the roles inside those accounts, let's suppose you're only creating one role in each AWS account and you have 50 AWS accounts. So that is like 50 roles. And those 50 roles will have different permissions. So analyzing all those permissions manually, it's going to be not possible for you if you are going to do it manually. So this is where IAM Access Analyzer comes in. This is where it is very, very useful for such organizations, that you can enable IAM Access Analyzer on your um, organization level. And what it will do, it will go and it will scan all the roles and users across all the accounts. And it will scan all of their policies as well. And it will tell you, and also the resources, by the way. For example, if we talk about external access analyzer, so it will not just scan your IAM roles or users, it will also scan the resources. Now imagine having S3 buckets in 50 AWS accounts. So scanning those S3 buckets for external access manually will be very, very difficult. This is also where IAM Access Analyzer comes in. You create an external access analyzer and you create it on the organization level. We will see how it is done in the demo session. And once you create the IAM Access Analyzer on the organization level, it will go and start scanning your whole organization for all the resources, roles, users, and see if there are any external accesses provided, and it will provide you those details in the finding list. It also have a very nice dashboard, but that dashboard takes some time to generate. We will see if we already have the dashboard ready or not. I tried to enable the IAM Access Analyzer in one of my demo accounts, so I'm not sure because it takes some time, but we will see if it is enabled. That will be great, but at least we will have findings, because findings usually start generating immediately. Automate IAM policy reviews. As I mentioned, you can integrate it with your CI/CD pipeline. So let's suppose your developers are writing IAM policies for their resources, like they are creating a Lambda function and they want to add some permissions to their Lambda function. They can write the policy and then you can just in CI/CD, you can automatically validate their IAM policy before it goes and applies and it fails, right? So you just stop that from happening and you provide them an early feedback in the pipeline in at the validation stage. When as soon as they push, you validate their IAM policy and you provide them feedback that this policy is not validated, right? Least privileges. So once you create the analyzer, it keeps on scanning those resources from time to time, and it will keep you updated. So as soon as any other new resource provides an external access to some other third party, it will automatically be highlighted in the finding. You can also integrate it with the event bridge, so it will send you an event notification as well. For example, let's suppose there are some critical roles and you want to make sure no external access is provided to those critical roles. So you can configure IAM Access Analyzer to scan your resources and send the notification to Event Bridge, and you can even automate it. So once the event comes to the Event Bridge, you can trigger your Lambda function and remove that external access from that particular role. So that is also possible. So you are technically automating your security as well. So this is very, very useful when you integrate IAM Access Analyzer with the Event Bridge. Continuous monitoring of external access. That is also like part of the external access analyzer. As I mentioned, it will keep on scanning your resources. As soon as there is a new external access provided, it will highlight it, trigger the event bridge, and then you can just revoke that access. So how we can use it? We have already discussed it multiple times. External access analyzer is the first analyzer. Second one is unused credentials. And the other methods is policy validation, policy generation, APIs to validate policies in your CI/CD pipeline, either through the CLI or through the API as well. Okay, so now let's jump right into it and see how we can configure these access analyzer and how it looks like in the console and how we can utilize this service. So if you allow me a minute, I will try to log into the AWS account. So first, we will go into a test AWS account where we don't have any IAM access analyzer, so we can see how it looks like once you haven't configured anything. And then after that, we will configure it, and then we will go into an account where we already have configured it and see how it works, or how it looks like at least. Okay, so this is a AWS account, which is obviously not
We cannot see it.
You cannot see.
We still see the PPT.
Okay, 1 second. Let me stop share and share again. Most probably because I was only sharing. Okay, hopefully you are able to see it now.
Yes.
So this is an AWS account where we do not have an IAM Access Analyzer configured. So I will go to the IAM service. Okay. So here on the left side, if you see, we have this option which says IAM Access Analyzer, right? And under that, you can see external access and unused access. So these are the two analyzers that we talked about earlier. So if I click on the Access Analyzer, it will take me to the dashboard of Access Analyzer, but since it is not configured, it will show you the welcome message. This is how it works and all. And it is also showing you the pricing here as well. So for example, if you are only scanning for external access, that is free. But if you are scanning for unused access, then it costs you 2 fills per IAM user or role per month. Now we need to configure these analyzers, we need to create analyzer. So we have a question. Let me come back to that. Once we do this, then I will come back to that question. So to create the analyzer, we click on create analyzer, and it's a very simple interface. There are not a lot of options, and all you have to do is just select what kind of analyzer you want to create. Is it external access analyzer or unused access analysis? So let's say, for example, first we are going to create external access analysis, and here you need to provide the name. There is an auto-generated name. You can provide your own name as well. For example, if you are creating multiple analyzers, you can have multiple analyzer. For example, one can be an organization based and one can be for the current account. But usually there is no need for having multiple, but just in case if you want to create multiple analyzers, you can provide a name here as well. So we will just keep it default. Now, under the zone of trust, we have current organization or current account. Current organization option will only be available if you are logged into the management account of your organization. If you are logged into the sub account, then you will not get the current organization option. You will only get the selected account. There will be no checkbox even. It will just show you the account ID that this is the account that we will be scanning for, then that's it. Now, since we do not have an organization here, this is an individual account. I will just select current account for this one. And then it is telling me that we will be creating this, the cross account access for the organization trust and all, if we will be selecting this. But since we are just selecting current account, then we can just proceed and click create analyzer. So this is it. Like, this is how simple AWS has made it. All you have to do is just technically enable it, provide a name, and just let this AWS know the scope. Either it is organization level or on the account level, and that's it. And then AWS will start the analyzer. So if you see here, already there is one finding. As soon as we create it, AWS has already created one finding here. Now we have a second finding. So this is how fast it starts generating the findings as soon as you enable it, especially if you are doing it on the current account. It just immediately starts the findings. Now, if I click on one of these findings, it will provide me more details about this finding, like what kind of finding it is and what are the different details. So for example, here you can see it's an external principal federated user. So it's not an external account, it's not an external role, it's an external principal federated user. So this is a federated user. Since it's not a IAM user in the account, that's why it is considered external. It's a federated user. And based on what I'm seeing here, it's not even a user, it's actually part of AWS SSO trust-based policy. So this is what you are seeing here, that AWS SSO cross-account trust thing. So there is a finding ID. When was it last updated? What is the status? So status means this finding. What is the current status of this finding? Does it still exist or it has been remediated? So right now this is still active. For example, let's suppose this external access is removed. Although I wouldn't recommend removing this particular one, that this is part of the AWS SSO implementation. But let's say there is another finding which is remediated. So this status will go to resolve. There are multiple statuses. We will see them now as well. But this status will go to resolve. And at the right side, you can see what kind of permissions are available to this particular identity. You can see here that it has write permissions on STS, and it has tagging permissions as well. So this is how the finding is listed. Now, what you can do once the finding is here, you have two options. Either you go and delete this external access and it will be resolved. But let's suppose you do not want to delete this access because this is an intended access and this is a business requirement, right? In that case, you can just say intended access and you can archive it. Once you archive it, AWS will know, okay, this is a legitimate access and it does not have to be highlighted again and again. It is okay, and this external access was provided as part of the business use case. And obviously, if it is not intended, it is telling you to go to the IAM console and delete it. Now, if I go back, as I mentioned, there are multiple statuses. So if I click on a status, you can see here active, archived, and resolved. So archive is for example, when you say it is intended access, you click on archive. Once you do the archival, it will show up in the archive section here. So you can see what findings have been archived. You cannot delete them. You can only resolve them. You can only archive them, or they will be active. There is no option to delete them. Now, this is our external access analyzer. It is right now working and it will be fetching all the details. Since it is a very fresh account, there is nothing. So I don't think so there will be much finding. But now let's see how we can create this unused access analyzer. Okay, Raven, let me come back to your question as well. First, let me create this analyzer also. So we finish these. Now, if we look at the unused access analyzer, this is also same as external access analyzer. There are not much options. It's very simple, straightforward. You just select this here and then provide the name. But here you specify the tracking period. What is your duration when you say this is unused? For example, you have an IAM role, which is used by your batch job, which runs every week, right? So if you set it to 5 days, every few days, it will mark your role that is used by your batch job that this role is being unused, right? But let's suppose you make it 7 days, then that weekly batch job role that is only used once in a week will not be marked as unused because it is used every week. So similarly, maybe the safest bet usually is 90 days. If the role or user is used in the last 90 days, that is 3 months, that means it is still in use. The possibilities is still it is in use by some of the applications, or maybe a cron job, or maybe an event, or maybe a scheduled task that is being hosted on the ECS, which gets triggered maybe on a certain time, maybe every 3 months or 4 months. So 90 days is a very safe option, but you can further restrict it as well if you want to restrict it, or you can increase it as well. IAM service is a global service, but here it will show you just the region, which is the default region right now, US Virginia, but that does not impact your findings because IAM findings are kind of global. When it scans your IAM users roles, these will be global always. Again, same thing here, current account or organization account. We only see the organization account because we are logged into the organization management account. But if you were in the child account, we will only see the account ID, not even this checkbox here. So I will just select current account. There are no further options, just create analyzer. And that's it. This analyzer is also now created. Now, if I go to the access analyzer screen, I can see my both analyzers are created here. We have external access analyzer and we have unused access analyzer here. And I can click on view findings. And when I click on view findings, I can see the findings. Once these findings are generated and it has processed everything, you will see a very nice dashboard here as well. Right now, the dashboard is not here because we just enabled it. It takes some time for the dashboard to come up, but the dashboard shows you the count and the pie chart and all those colors, and all the nice looking things are there in the dashboard. So it gives you the nice view on how your IAM Access Analyzer has found those permissions, roles, or resources. Now, the only thing that you can do here further is change the settings for these analyzers. Or if you want to create more analyzers, you can create those more analyzers as I mentioned before, or you can change the settings. So you can click on this and you can, oh, you cannot change the settings. You can only delete it. So this is the IAM Access Analyzer. Any questions so far on IAM Access Analyzer? Meanwhile, I go back to these questions. Can we use replace configure or track changes to resources with the help of event rule at event break? Yes, AWS config can be used. AWS config monitors all the changes to all the resources. So for example, security groups, EC2 instances, whatever resources you have and whatever changes are being done. IAM Access Analyzer, on the other hand, is very specific to the, for example, external access. If you are creating an external access analyzer, it will monitor only for the external access. AWS config will not tell you that this is external access or internal access. It will monitor the change that yes, the role was changed. What was the change? You have to analyze it yourself. Is it external access or not? You have to analyze it yourself, and then you can remediate it. Of course, you can do that. That is possible. But IAM Access Analyzer, on the other hand, is very specific and targeted towards external access. So any resources, not just IAM roles. I have been saying IAM roles because this is IAM access analyzer, but it works on the resources as well. It will scan your S3 buckets, and we will see in other accounts that I created earlier in the day for this presentation. So I prepared at least 2 accounts, if I remember correctly. And I will show you both of these accounts. One is organization account and one is a child account. So I will show you both views as well. So basically what happens, it scans all the resources, S3 buckets. If you give anybody access directly to the S3 bucket using the resource policy on the S3 bucket, it will highlight that. Similarly, there are other resources where you can still provide resource-based policies and use the resource-based policies to provide access to external principals. It will highlight all of those resources for you, not just IAM roles and users. Similarly, unused credentials does the same thing. It checks specifically for the unused credentials. So yes, AWS config can be used, but then you will have to do all that calculation and manipulation and verify if it is external access or not. But on the other hand, IAM Access Analyzer kind of makes it easier for you. And external access is free anyway. There is no charge. Can we also see who created the resource? That is actually a very good question. Let's see if we can go to the finding ID. So no, here it does not show you who created the resource or who provided that access. But obviously, once you have the external principal and you have the role, you can maybe then investigate it from CloudTrail who provided this access. So
Sure.
now we saw the analyzers, external access analyzer and unused credentials analyzer. We talked about policy validation as well. So, and I said we have been using it without knowing that this is IAM access analyzer service. So let's quickly have a look. I will go to the policies. We all have been creating policies through the IAM console using this create policy option. So if we go to the create policy right now, and I say I want to give permissions or whatever. I'll just add these permissions. So if you see here, suggestions at the bottom, these are coming from the IAM Access Analyzer policy validation. These are coming from the policy validation. So these are coming from the policy validation service. Policy validation service is, for example, whenever you go and create the policy validation service automatically comes into play. Here you can also see another error. So this is like a very basic error, but this one is more targeted. It is actually telling you line 7, column 13 has this empty array action, and you need to fix this. This is coming from the IAM Access Analyzer. Similarly, you see here warnings, errors, and security. If you make such mistake in your policy, those will be highlighted as well. Let me remove this. This is just too much. I will just add write, and I will say all write actions, and then I will say all. Okay. Now it is giving me warning. See, from suggestions to warning. So if I look at the warning, it is telling me policy size exceeds identity policy quota. So 13,385 characters is more than 10,240, which is the limit for the policy document that you can have when you're creating the policy. So this is where the IAM policy validation comes in, and we have been using it. This is one way of using it. Another way obviously is the command line. There is a AWS CLI, we all know about it. That CLI has a sub command which is called access analyzer. And under the access analyzer, we have a policy validation. I think it is called policy dash validation or validate dash policy, something like that. You can use that obviously to validate your policies in your JSON files. So you do not have to come to the console and put your policy in the JSON tab here to verify it. Instead, you can just provide it a JSON file on the CLI, and it will automatically validate it and provide you the output on the CLI. Here you can see the warning. It is showing you warning here. If you introduce any errors or any security issues, it will also let you know that these are the security issues. You should consider removing these from your policy. So this is where we have been using IAM policy validation. Now, another thing that we talked about is policy generation, right? So let's see how the policy generation works. So policy generation is usually only limited to IAM roles and maybe IAM users as well. We will check now. I have never used it with IAM users because I don't know last time when I used IAM user. I've been so here we have, for example, these different roles. And if I click on this role, here you can see generate policy based on the CloudTrail events, right? So this generate policy based on the CloudTrail event, this allows you to generate a policy automatically based on what? Based on your CloudTrail events. So CloudTrail events, when we say CloudTrail events, what happens is when you click on generate policy, and we will do it now, it will go and scan the CloudTrail events for this particular role and see what kind of services it has been accessing over the past few days in the CloudTrail events. And it will generate a policy based on those events and will provide you that these are the permissions that this role needs. So if there are any other extra permissions that are assigned, in this case, administrator access, because this role has administrator access, which is obviously not right. So this is how you can apply the least privilege permissions as well. This is the most easiest way to apply least privilege permissions to any role or user. So for example, I will click on generate policy. And here it is asking me how many number of days should I scan the CloudTrail events. So I will just select, for example, 7 days, or I can specify the dates also, but I will just select 7 days. And then it is asking me where the CloudTrail is, which I need to, okay, this is a new account, so we don't have CloudTrail. We will look into the CloudTrail into the other account. So you just select the CloudTrail here and you click generate policy, and it will automatically generate a policy for you to apply to this role. So you can remove the admin permissions and you can apply only those least privilege permissions to your roles. This is how you can keep optimizing your roles and permissions. Sure. In the other account, Revant, we have resources. So we will scan those and see the findings in those accounts. There will be a lot of findings. This is just a fresh account, so we have very less things. Okay. So I think this is it for the creation of access analyzer and everything. Now let me log into the other account and try to show you guys how it looks like over there. So give me a second. I will now log into the other account. So now we will be logging into an organization account, which is the organization management account, and we will see from there how it looks like. I'm Access Analyzer and the findings. So see, it takes a lot of time. I created this one in the morning for showing the demo, but it's still doing its scanning. So we do not have the dashboard, but we do have the findings. So let me quickly go to the findings. It would have been very nice if we had the dashboard also. But yeah, okay. So if you see here now, these are the different findings that it has found 11 hours ago when I actually created it. So these findings are related to the roles. You can see SNS topic here as well. SNS topic is another resource where you can apply the resources policy, S3 buckets, SQS queues. All of these things are where you can apply the resource-based policy. Here we have the S3 bucket, for example. So Revant asked for the S3 bucket. Let me click on this finding and see what we have in the S3 bucket. So here you can see that there is this S3 bucket, which is in the finding, and it is telling me who owns this resource, what account, because again, this is a useful information here since this is a multi-account environment and I'm logged in into the organization level. So I can see the findings for all my accounts. So it is telling me this particular account has this S3 bucket, and this S3 bucket has allowed permissions to read or whatever. Yeah, read. We can see here, read from this bucket using this particular IAM user. And this we can see this is a CloudFront user, which is used by CloudFront to provide access to the S3 bucket resources when you configure S3 as an origin in your CloudFront distributions. So this is like one of the findings for the S3 bucket. Similarly, if I go to another finding, okay, all the rest of them are all roles. Let's click on SNS topic and see what we have on SNS topic. So here, like this is a dangerous one. Why this is a dangerous one? Because I can see all principles. And this is already showing the ARN. So now Raven might already be, ready to publish something through this SNS topic. But basically what is happening is it is allowing everybody to be able to send SNS notifications using this particular SNS. Everybody has right access, and this is the account that owns it. So this is something that is kind of dangerous, where all the principals in the world have access to this SNS and they can go and write to this SNS. Similarly, if we go and we look at one of the IAM roles, let me pick one which is not AWS reserved. These are all AWS reserved. Yeah, this one. So here, this is an IAM role which has external access. Now, how does that work? How can an IAM role have an external access? This role belongs to this account. So we see the account ID here. And this external account has the permissions to be able to assume this role. So once this role is assumed by this account, they have permissions, whatever permissions are assigned to this role. So this account has assume role permissions. As I can see on the right side, there are no conditions. So that means there is no external ID or anything. So anybody from this particular account can basically assume this role and access the resources that have been, available to this particular role using the permissions that are applied to this particular role. Now, if I go to unused access, because these are all the findings that we have here in the external access analyzer. Yeah, pretty much. Now, if I go to unused role, so here in the unused role, you can see it is highlighting all these different roles, permissions, that there are unused permissions. So it's not just the roles or users. It is if even looking for the unused permissions and telling you that there are unused permissions. So let me click on this and see what we have here. So it is telling you that this particular role has all these permissions, but these actions have never been used. So it is actually telling you that these are the extra permissions on this role, and you need to remove those permissions to be compliant with the least privilege permissions model, right? So this is where IAM Access Analyzer really shines. It is not just one account. This particular organization have 15 plus accounts already. So it is going to scan all of those 15 plus accounts for all these resources, all these permissions, last access time, everything, and show me a centralized report. And right now the dashboard is not yet ready. If the dashboard would have been ready, imagine having all my account view in one dashboard. The only thing is that we need to remember from the costing perspective, external access is free. Unused credentials, each user and role, you have to pay 2 fills every month. So if a user is scanned today, that will be 2 fills. If you add a new user and that is scanned, that will be 2 fills. So one user every month, 2 fills. If you delete and create a new user, that will be separate 2 fills. It's not like on the number of users, it's on the actual user that you are scanning. Now, we will go to the roles in this account, and we will try to generate the policy that we were not able to do in the other one. So for example, let's say I will do this because this is the one that was showing that we have a lot of permissions. So here we have the generate policy option, right? I will just select, let's say one day. I will keep it one day, but one day nothing will show up. Let me select another role. Something should show up, right? Yeah, this one is used 10 minutes ago, so let me use this. So generate policy, 1 days. And now which trail? Now we have the trail. So I selected the trail. Now it is asking me which region. So if you are scanning CloudTrail events, do you want to specify a region or you want to keep it for all regions? So for example, if I want to restrict my role or user to a specific region, I can do that as well. So here I can select all regions. Let's say I just want to make it all regions and I want to make sure that this particular role has the least
Maybe-
permissions for all regions.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Zona says the computer screen display is too small. Can you zoom in a bit?
Is it any better now?
Is it better, Zona? Yeah, it is bigger. Yeah, cool.
Perfect.
Thanks.
So I will now click on generate policy. So this may take up to 30 seconds. Do not refresh or leave this page. I do not like this personally, but it is what it is. So we have to stay here for 30 seconds. After this, we will be redirected back. We will not get the policy, by the way. We will be just redirected back to the IAM role page, where we will still have to wait for the scan to finish. Because right now what is happening is IAM Access Analyzer is actually accessing the CloudTrail events, and it is analyzing all the CloudTrail events and going through based on the number of days. So now we are again back to this screen. As you can see, it is still in progress. Now it will take some time, and after some time, we will have a button here which will say view generated policy. And we can click on that view generated policy and see the policy that have been generated by the IAM Access Analyzer after analyzing our CloudTrail events. And then we can use that policy and apply that policy to this particular role. Or we can create a new role, apply to that policy to that role and start using that role and remove this role completely. So this is totally up to us. So this is going to take some time again, since it is going to go through the IAM CloudTrail events, and based on the number of events, it will have to scan in 1 day, or how many number of days you select, it will take that much of time. So meanwhile, I will try to log into that child account as well. So we can look a single account view as well, how it looks like. It is pretty much same, but I'm hoping the dashboard might be ready over there.
In the meanwhile, there are a couple of questions. Maybe you can answer them.
Yes. So I guess so, because does this generate policy for least privilege work even when access analyzer is not enabled? Yes, if you haven't enabled external access analyzer and unused credentials analyzer, you can still generate the least privilege policy using the IAM role that we just did. That can be done. So this is a question from Anya. Yes, the least privilege policy can be generated by scanning the CloudTrail events without enabling the access analyzer. Second question is, can we manage user password and access secret keys with access? Yes, it will scan everything. Secret access keys, user passwords, permissions, users, roles, all those things will be scanned by the unused credentials, and it will report you that these are the ones that are not being used in the specified number of time, and then you can mitigate those risks. So now we are, unfortunately, the dashboard is not ready here as well. This is a single account, but let's see if we have any finding that will be useful. So for example, here we have the S3 bucket, read. Uh, okay, yeah, not much. Let's check this finding, since Raymond wanted to see the S3 bucket. So here again, as you can see, this is again another dangerous one. As soon as you see all principles, you know there is something wrong. So this is all principles. Everybody has read access to this bucket. It is a test bucket, we know, but that is again a dangerous one. Not as dangerous as having the right permissions here. So it's read permission. So whatever data is stored in the S3 bucket, anybody in the world can go and read it from this S3 bucket because we have allowed all the external principals to be able to read from this bucket. So this is why IAM Access Analyzer is very, very handy. It provides all these findings. And this external access is actually free of cost. So you do not have to pay for any tool. There are a lot of tools in the market which obviously have certain subscription fees, but this external access from AWS is completely free of cost. Only you have to remember unused credentials is what you will have to pay, and that can be a significant charge, by the way. If you have multiple accounts, again, if you have, for example, as we saw in our organization right now, the demo organization that we are looking at, it had almost 15 or 10 accounts, oh, sorry, roles in one account, and it had 15 plus accounts. So that is like almost 150 roles. Similarly, there might be 10, 15 users. So if we go to the AWS calculator and put these numbers in, that will be itself $20 to $30 per month. So if you are just testing IAM Access Analyzer, that and for learning purpose, that might be a very huge cost. But from an organization perspective, where the security is of uttermost important, that $20, $30 might not be of a very huge cost. That is might be a worth it thing for them. And like from an organization perspective, it definitely is, because it provides you that centralized view where when you have multiple accounts and there are users that exist on those accounts, there are roles that exist on those accounts, and they are there usually. So it is very, very useful in those scenarios. So any questions? I think this is it. We have covered almost all the aspects of IAM Access Analyzer. I'm just waiting for this policy to be generated. This is the one that we did? No. Yeah, this, yeah, policy generated. You can customize. Where is the policy? Yeah, here. View generated policy. So this is the policy that is generated. Actions included in the generated policy, it is telling me what actions have been used. If I want to add additional actions, I can do that as well, and then click next. Now it is telling me these are the services that were used in last one day that by that particular role. So if there are any other permissions needed and those were not used in last one day, those are not captured here. So you have to make sure when you are doing the generate policy, you are selecting the specified number of days based on your requirement. If you select one day, it will only scan for one day. And if that role hasn't used those permissions in last one day, then you will not capture those here. You cannot directly, as far as I know, export the findings to the S3 bucket, but it can be integrated with the Security Hub. So all these findings can be in Security Hub, and from Security Hub, you can export them. But let me see. View findings, select, export. Yeah, you can just download like this, maybe manually. But there is no automated way here to export it. Maybe using AWS CLI, you can export it. You can automate it yourself, write an AWS CLI utility, which will export your findings from IAM Access Analyzer to S3 bucket. Okay, so any questions, guys? I think I have covered all the things that I had planned and I knew. If I miss anything, feel free to let me know. I would be more than happy to learn something new. And if you have any questions, please go ahead.
So thanks a lot, Hamid, for unlocking this new feature. If you have to summarize this in short, whatever you have done in the past 1 hour, if you have to summarize in 1 minute, what would that be?
So IAM Access Analyzer allows you to achieve least privilege on your organization level.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the most USP for this entire product.
Yeah, this is actually what I use it for as well. for achieving the least privilege. We have other things as well, but this is what we also use for achieving the least privilege and monitoring the external access.
Great. Others, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in on the chat or unmute yourself and you can just ask directly.
Yes, please. You guys can unmute if you want, because this is a meetup, not a webinar or something where you cannot unmute yourself.
Or if someone wants to share something about themselves or what you're looking at or what you would like to see in the next upcoming meetups, you can speak that out as well, and we'll try to bring in those topics accordingly. Okay, that's a lot of silence today.
I think
I was just Avinash here. I was just gonna ask if there is any chat group that you guys are part of, because right at this moment I can't really give any ideas or suggestions, but if something comes by I can probably share it, and folks can then share their views on it.
yes, of course,
Haven't
there's
Yeah.
a WhatsApp group where we kind of hang out. Let me share the link in the chat.
Yeah,
I think
put it.
Revant is just yeah. All right, cool.
Yes, that
Yeah.
one.
A lot of people are there, so yeah, maybe be too much I guess, but still, let's see if we can get anything going around in that group.
Yeah. So those are all AWS folks.
Mhm.
Usually the discussions are around AWS.
Okay, cool. But yeah, by the way, detailed session, I really liked it. And there was, you went into much detail as well. Yeah. Thanks for the session, though.
No problem, no problem. Anya, yes, you can create an archive rule. Archive rule can also be used to automatically archive your findings. There is a archive rule option. Let me see. External manage analyzer, create archive rule. So you can create the archive rule here, right? So if public access is false and these conditions are matching, then you can archive it automatically. So here it is showing you the results, what findings are matching this particular rule. You can also change this as well. Like for example, principal, let's suppose there are some whitelisted principles. So you can specify their ARNs here, multiple of those, and then any other condition you want to add, if you want to add, and then you can automatically archive those rules. So for example, because it will find all the external entities, right? And there might be certain principles that are external, but they are whitelisted or they are legitimate principles. So you can kind of create the rule here to automatically archive them.
Also, there's a question about that, Hamid. If you enable organization, does it create it in each account, like how
No,
AWS?
no, it does not create it in each account. The analyzer only exists in the organization level account where you have created it. You can delegate the administration to other account. So you can log into that account and view it from there. But the analyzer itself will exist in the main account, and it will pull in the findings over there. And you can still create the analyzers in your sub accounts as well, which will be working in isolation from the main analyzer.
Any more questions or anything else that you would like to share? And also, it's just not about the questions. If someone wants to, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mohammed.
When you archive the rule, will be there the life cycle duration for that?
No, it will just automatically archive it based on the conditions that you have specified. As far as the conditions are matching, that finding will be automatically archived always.
Okay, thanks.
If we
Uh,
don't have any more questions, I think we can wrap it up.
uh, just I'd like to add one more thing. So it's maybe once you think about it later on, if you would like to talk about something, you can feel free to reach out to Hamid or me, and we can try to set it up in the next meetup. It's not just about, of course, if you want to listen on some topic, you can definitely send that out as well. We'll try to find some speakers who are interested in talking about it. But if you would like to share something, I think this would be a cool platform to get started with. If you're just starting out, or if you would like to interact with more people, we do plan to have some in-person meetups as well. And I think hopefully we would love to see all of you in person.
Yep. Yes, definitely. We are always looking for new speakers. So if you want to speak on something, please let us know and we will organize it in the upcoming meetups. Okay.
Great. I guess if there's nothing, we can call it a day, and you can reach out to us, or in the WhatsApp group, you can feel free to ask anything.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you.